Hello and welcome. Welcome to Everyone's an Expert. We got a little bit different look tonight. Um, I have a friend who is borrowing my other camera and just got a new webcam hooked up. It's going to be a little lower quality. I hope you can live with it. But seeing this face a little more blurry is probably best for everyone. So welcome to Everyone's an Expert. I'm not necessarily an expert in everything, but if you know the internet, everyone thinks they are. But if we put our heads together, usually we can come up with the right answer. So thanks for joining me. Todd, how you doing? Todd might be welcome. You might be having a little bit of Tesla withdrawal. Todd just sold his Model S and is waiting for delivery of a Model Y, I believe. So Todd, have you got the shakes yet? Are you having the DTs? The delirium Teslas, I guess that would be. I hope you're surviving. Hey, Roland's here, and John, hello, welcome. Glad to have you guys here. Hope everyone's staying warm on a windy night here in Minnesota anyway. So the new look is, like I said, I have a friend borrowing my other camera and just got this webcam look set up. You can kind of see my, I never know which way to go here. Some of my, oh, it's that way. I should know this because I'm actually in the room, but my untidy art supplies that didn't get quite cleaned up are there for your viewing pleasure. But this is a working office that doubles as a studio, so I think you guys can handle it. John is asking, did I hear the latest on Tesla about the seatbelt motor jail? Oh, the seat motors for, adjusting your seat. Yeah, there's apparently a warning that will come on if you use them too much. And will stop you using the motors for 5 minutes. I couldn't figure out why you would possibly want this. I think it was Zach and Jesse talking about it yesterday on the Tesla Time News, their weekly show. I think Jesse had a good suggestion that maybe it's because sometimes kids play with it, and like my daughter will do that with the charge flap. If you tap it, it'll open, and then she'll slap it down, and then tap it again, and slap it down. And if I don't catch her right away, she'll just do that indefinitely. So, it could be something like that. I can't imagine an adult not trying to intentionally harm it would adjust it that much. I was in, if anybody saw the video from last weekend of kind of benchmarking my Model Y with Dustin's, and he had a Turo setting because he does Turo with his Model Y, and so I got the seat kind of all adjusted, and then I can't remember if I had adjusted it on easy entry or what the deal was, but I ended up really significantly switching out that different seating positions, and then why am I just not in the right spot? And it's one thing to adjust the seats in a car that you aren't used to, and you just get something that's normal or feels kind of good. But when you're in your own car, essentially, you're like, why can't I get this to go? I should be able to just pop it right into the right spot, but no, I was going kind of up and down and back and forth, and why does this not feel right? I eventually just kind of got something that I could live with and moved on. But yeah, it was kind of a funny 5 minutes in my driveway just going up and down and forward and back, and so I could see maybe in that situation, but I didn't get a warning or anything, and it just let me do it. So I think you'd have to be playing with it quite a long time for that to be a problem. but you never know. I do think it's probably more geared toward kids. Um, yeah, kids playing. Um, Todd doesn't have the shakes yet. He just talks and reads more about Tesla. That's why he was the first one on today, just so he could jump on and like Tesla talk. Um, uh, yeah, relativity boy. Thanks for the my little dude back there. I I had to kind of readjust him because it looked so weird. It was in such a weird pose. I'm like, I'll make it look like he's like dancing or like boxing or something, and hopefully that. I'm glad you enjoy it. If I use this view again in future live streams, maybe I'll do a different pose for the little figurine back there every time. Do I borrow my credit card out too? I don't get that. Unless somewhere in the camera shot you can see my credit card, but I can't imagine how that's the case. Um, maybe that's an inside joke. Yeah, Todd's getting the long range Model Y, and I think blue, if that's if I remember correctly. So that should be coming Saturday, I think. Make the figurine, hold a sign. That can be like the like and subscribe kind of obnoxious thing people put in their streams. Um, yeah, boxing or dancing or whatever. So uh, yeah, I'll come up with a sign or something. I'll maybe use this camera again because now that I have it, I may as well use it. Yeah, Todd said it'll be my a twin to mine. So long range blue, black interior, and yeah, I hope you love it. Um, Today, the Minnesota Tesla owners were invited to do test drives. Basically, it was kind of like a meetup, but they're going to do it every Wednesday on in the afternoons on Wednesdays at the Maplewood Service Center. And they didn't have a Plaid you could test drive, and no Model X's, but they do have 3s and Ys there. Um, so that was pretty cool. Went there, just hung out for about an hour, just a handful of people there, but fun to be there, see the 7-seat Model Y. They had a 7-seat and a 5-seat. So what it is, yeah, 7-seat and a 5-seat. And then a Model 3 in the showroom as well. So always good to be there, talk Tesla, kind of hear what other people are doing. A friend in the group is awaiting his Rivian delivery, so that'll be kind of cool to see what he gets there. When I went to Fully Charged a couple years ago, 2 years ago actually today, I was on the road probably just about now getting into Orlando that night. Hey Tony, welcome. And at the Fully Charged Live event, I got these, which I don't know how close this camera can focus yet, but some pretty cool pins. If we ever get to like do a big meetup in person, I'll give those away. Yeah, probably to someone who doesn't own a Rivian, because they'll probably get them when they get their truck or SUV. But Blue Dog 99, I drive a 2021 Model Y and was curious, does anyone else think that when in autopilot the car seems to hug the center line a tad too much? Yeah, it does feel that way. I think as humans we tend to kind of favor the far side of the lane, and the Tesla likes to be centered in the lane, and so it feels like you're really, really close when I guess I'm used to it now, but I know that was something that really took a long time to get used to. So hopefully with more time driving, you'll get used to it too. But it is a little weird at first because I was definitely a person who was almost always right on the white line and like to give everybody semis and everybody plenty of space because the roads can be dangerous. So I'm not sure. I suppose if you didn't have it do centering, you would have to teach it all sorts of conditions of when it's appropriate to hug the white line, what side the white line is on, which I guess is kind of what FSD is doing and stuff. But I think it's just something to get used to. But hopefully it does get feeling better for you soon, because it is an odd feeling. I understand, definitely. Well, I don't know if anybody saw. I'm sure it was kind of all the big news this morning that the Washington football team now has a new name. I know some people like it, some people don't like it. That's just kind of the way everything goes. But they are now the Washington Commanders, which I kind of think is cool because, George Washington, the commander of the Continental Army or the Army of the Potomac or, all that kind of stuff. So I like it. There were a lot worse names I feel like they could have chosen. So it's like, this just works. So I thought that was cool. And then they were tweeting a bunch of stuff about the new name and, all the stuff they're doing. And I wanted to share this clip with you from Twitter. And I should have actually zoomed out on the video to show the whole thing, but apparently somebody counted they had 9 Model Ys all branded with Washington Commanders. They went out into the D.C. area and were handing out swag. So just kind of a cool branding, marketing event. I don't know if the team purchased these or if, it was a rental from a Hertz or somebody or a Turo or something and they just had them wrapped for the day. Or it seems like if you're going to have company vehicles, these would be cool ones to have. And that's a lot of money in wraps to just throw away, but the NFL has a lot of money. So I just thought that was kind of cool, and if you hadn't seen it before, I'd share that. And don't know if anybody saw that or has any thoughts on it, but just a cool thing. And we're starting to see the rollout of the playoffs and the big game that I hate saying that, but I don't know if now that I'm monetized, I can't say the other word that everybody knows and avoids saying. So I'm not going to say that, but the game that's coming up. There's the last couple of years, there's been some pretty good and some pretty bad EV ads, but more are coming out. I just saw one for the Hyundai Ioniq 5 with Jason Bateman. I think that was the Ioniq 5. Kind of funny, kind of just kind of showing how the idea was that the time for EVs has always been in the future, and the time for EVs is now. In that, the Ioniq 5 is a modern, normal car you can get in and just drive, and it feels like a car. It's not a cramped thing. It's not horse and carriage, or there was a bunch of like little historical vignettes, and then ends with him. Well, it kind of goes back and forth for the comedy's sake, but the idea is that the modern him is driving a Ioniq 5 and happy as a clam. So that was cool to see. And yeah, so there was that. Then there was another. I want to say it was Blink Charge, but I don't think it was. But it was a home charging unit commercial, like just a J772 or 1772 wall outlet connector, and or wall connector. Not, you know what I mean. And it was done with a guy. I don't know for sure, but it felt like they found a guy who actually got struck by lightning and lived, and then like had all these scenarios of how he's afraid of electricity. He turns the lights on and off with a big stick, and there were a couple other vignettes. And then he's perfectly comfortable, using this wall charger to plug in his car. And then the reasons behind that. And whether the guy actually did get hit with lightning or not is really not that important. I'm just wondering because, like, it started out with, like, Ring doorbell footage of like guy I think getting off of a motorcycle or something, and then as he was walking to the door got zapped, and it feels like that's a thing that could have been captured, but I also have absolutely no idea because I'm not up on who's been struck by lightning and who hasn't. But kind of a cool concept, kind of funny, and so I think in the next couple weeks, we'll see more of these coming out from the different EV manufacturers or people who are starting to make EVs. Actually, the bus driver this morning, as I was getting my daughter on the bus, asked me if I had seen the new Mazda commercial. And I haven't, and the day slipped by and I still haven't had a chance to see it. But he was saying it was pretty good, and it was about, their EVs. And so that's kind of cool. If my bus driver is seeing the ads, then, or my daughter's bus driver is seeing ads for EVs and noticing it, then it's getting out there. So that's pretty cool. It's very weird to do this standing. Usually I'm sitting and I feel like I'm just floating all over the place. The other exciting thing that happened just like an hour or two ago is that new Supercharger locations were updated on the Tesla. Find us at Tesla. Let me see if I can actually put this on my second screen and show you, because showing is better than telling. And now that I'm actually facing my computer today, I can do that. So let's go and look at second screen. Hey, look at that. And we are going to zoom in here, maybe. So obviously right now we're seeing everything, so I'm going to turn off stores and galleries. This is just kind of fun to come and check anytime, but and service, we're going to turn that off. And then since I'm in Minnesota, I'm going to zoom in here. Not really a ton we didn't know about. In Minnesota, I was hoping for a more North Shore kind of situation, or even like a 1 or 2 stall in some of these places, up in Roseau or something, just to have something there would have been great. But they did put in this one last year, Interesting, they're adding one to Monticello here. This is the Bloomington one that should be a new service center when it's built. And for those of you who don't know, you can click on these and get more details of when they expect them to open. And really, I just kind of expected they'd do a little more hole filling, but maybe a lot of these are saying Q2. Let's just look in Iowa here. Cedar Rapids, Q2. So I wonder if they've just kind of changed their strategy, that if they've changed their strategy to say, okay, the ones we know are going in soon, we're going to put those on and not put any other ones. Nice, good northern one here in Wisconsin. That'll be good. There was somebody on Twitter who was saying, we need them, like one here and one here and one here and, one or two here so that, you can loop all the way around Lake Superior, which would be an awesome drive to do someday. It's something I've always wanted to do and just never had the time to actually do it. I do know some of them have come off that I expected. They had one for a long time last year here in Shelby, Montana, which is a place I've gone a few times. And I was really hoping they'd get a supercharger there. And that one doesn't seem to be happening anymore, which is unfortunate. The person who posted the update, I can't remember his Twitter handle offhand, but he was talking about how there's so many more coming in the Northeast, which is good too. All this part of Maine's getting shafted. But anyway, just kind of cool that that's being updated, and hopefully we'll see more. Not much happening in the Dakotas again, but at least you can cross them now. It would be nice. Be cool to have that Williston, Minot, Devil's Lake. That would be another great run to have done, and really go all the way across. Wolf Point, Glasgow. And just cross. Keep making the spider web tighter. But they're putting a lot out there, and that is cool. So fun page to play around with every now and again, especially if there's a kind of place that you like to hang out or drive to or are planning a road trip. This is kind of a fun tool to play around with. And then I'm guessing we're on the U.S. site, so it's not going to say it. But I'll just piggyback this onto it. Apparently in Norway, and I can't remember there are a couple other countries in Europe where supercharging has opened up to all users, or all like CCS users. So that is cool. Hopefully that, I'm really hoping that program, I'm going to come back here on screen. I'm really hoping that program will continue to slowly roll out, and they can get good data about how it's being used, how often it's being used by other vehicles, any technical challenges of what they need to look out for. I kind of hope they iron all that out in Europe so that when it comes to the U.S., it can be relatively smooth sailing. I did hear, I can't remember the source on this, so take it with a big grain of salt, but I did hear talk of, like, at an 8-stall supercharger, one supercharger would get a CCS plug, and then that would be the only one available for other drivers. That might be a good way to start. I would hope they would expand that eventually. As they expand the supercharger network, maybe these new superchargers would have more CCS plugs. And then they'll just retrofit one to the old ones. That would make a little bit of sense. But we'll have to see how that rolls out. But I'm really kind of glad for us that this is happening in Europe first. They can figure these things out, figure out the usage rates and that kind of thing in countries that are far more heavily dense in EVs, and kind of get through that process, kind of learn what they need to know, and then proceed to bring it over here, and with all that stuff known already. Thanks, Relativity Boy. I appreciate that. Let's see. Tony says, just looking at the images of the Ioniq 5, kind of cool, interesting diagonal line. Yeah, I am not a fan of the look. I like that they went for a bold retro design. I think that's cool. I just don't like it. So I think to me, it's a little too on the nose, and then I don't know, like with all the pixel design and stuff of it, then there's like the crease on the side. A lot of people love it. I know I'm in the minority. But I just watched a video from Ben Sullins today on the Kia EV6. Seems like it's about the same size, kind of Kia's version of that, and I think it looks a lot better. It looks like a more modern vehicle with still some fun lines, and it appeals to me more. I did really like, years ago we had a Hyundai Sonata, and I really, really liked that car. It was one I got just after a truck I had died, and I just needed something. And my brother-in-law's an auto broker, and he found this. I said, I just need something that's going to be reliable, and we're going to have kids soon, so, something I can put a car seat in. And he found the Sonata, and it was really a good car. I really liked owning that. And then a semi did kind of a jump down a hill and kind of jumped a boulevard, hit a bunch of cars. Mine was the last one in the row. And it kind of did a domino effect, and my coworker's Jeep got kind of launched into my car, and they totaled it, which is really unfortunate. But I guess it got me on the path to eventually getting a Tesla, so that's good. But I do think Hyundai and Kia make decent vehicles, and like I said, I really liked my Hyundai, so hopefully it's a great EV. I just started watching Kyle Connor's comparison of it to the ID4, and again, just haven't had time to finish it because today got a little out of hand, but that's the way things go. John says, people still talking out their butts about Teslas and how we charge them, say we're using coal. John's got nuclear power that charges Tesla. Maybe you should get like I don't know if there's like a decal of like powered by nuclear or something, and it's got like the nuclear like silo chimney kind of thing. Put a little decal on the back of it. Or big letters that just say nuclear Tesla across the side. That'll look really sharp. I think I'd rather have the diagonal line from the Ioniq 5. Blue Dog 99 says he likes the Ioniq 5 too, but not sure it'll age well. Yeah. That might be one of those cars that's cool now and then super uncool in 5 years, and then 10 or 15 years from now, it's going to be the thing everyone wants. It'll be like the new Volkswagen, bus kind of thing. Could be. Relativity Boy says, I'm pretty disappointed there aren't any Superchargers up on the North Shore. Yeah, there's some level 2 options, but with how many Tesla owners and EV owners go up on the North Shore over the summer, even in, I'm trying to think if we did our first trip up there in 2018 or 2019. There were already lots of Teslas and I think even a handful of Leafs or something up there. And that was a huge surprise because other than at Superchargers, you just didn't see that many Teslas around. So, yeah, I would love for them to get more charging up there. John says the Superchargers at Black Bear are there because they wanted customers at the casino that Hinckley gets. Yeah, probably. It's also way easier than going into the hotel parking ramp in Duluth, in downtown Duluth. So it's kind of a good win-win for everyone. Yeah, Tony was up ice fishing, and he could have used one in Walker, which is pretty far north. Oh, that is a genius decal. I'm going to put this on the screen here if I can. I'm trying to do more of the like YouTuber live stream things, so I can actually put things on the screen, especially when I'm facing the computer here. So, yeah, the decal for John's Tesla can be powered by atoms for your pleasure. I love it. That's fantastic. John will be getting a Kia Niro for rental when when the parts come in from his fender bender, or hit and run, I guess, however you describe it. So that'll be cool to get a drive in the Niro. Something I noticed as Kyle was standing next to the Ioniq 5 in his video, like I said, I just started watching it. I couldn't believe how much taller he was than it. It seems like it's SUV size or Model Y size. And I was surprised that he was gesturing over it. Or it felt that way. I'm going to have to obviously finish watching that video, but interesting. That's on Out of Spec Reviews. Or Out of Spec Motoring. I think that one's on Out of Spec Motoring. They've got a few different channels. If you just search Out of Spec, you'll find it. And that and the Polestar the Polestar 2 always looks in photos like it's more SUV sized, but that's more like Dodge Charger sized, I feel like. That could just be me. Over in Superior at the fairgrounds, there's a lot of level 2 chargers. So Superior is the small Wisconsin town, well, relatively small, across the lake, or across the harbor, I guess, from Duluth, for those that don't know Lake Superior very well. North Dakota gets almost 30% of electricity from the wind. Wow. That's pretty good. I didn't know it was that high already. Yeah, Kyle's 6 feet, but that's... I don't feel like he could gesture like that over the Model Y. I don't know. I am not 6 foot. I'm only like 5... Well, at my height, at my tallest height in my 20s, I think I was 5'11". I'm probably 5'10 or 5'9 now. But, yeah. Anyway, cool that those are starting to show up. People are getting their hands on them. Tom Malogney from State of Charge and Inside EVs is also testing I think both of them, the EV6 and the Hyundai Ioniq 5. I really wish they wouldn't have named those two things numbers right next to each other. For sister companies that is super confusing and frustrating. Which one's which and which one does what. But anyway, we're going to start seeing a lot more of those, and Hyundai has quietly really positioned themselves well, I think, in the EV world. And if they can produce these at scale, they are going to be right up there with Tesla as far as they'll sell, they should sell every one they can make. And it's just a matter of how fast can they get them here, and how much market share can they get. With GM kind of stalled out right now, they've got a great opportunity to really make a good footprint. And other notes. I have a pen that's just at the end of its life, and so all my notes on my page in front of me are very faint. So it's like, oh, what was I talking about there? I guess that takes us into the Ford conversation, where Ford made an announcement. Again, I haven't had a chance to really dig into this yet, but Ford made an announcement yesterday or today that they are doing major internal restructuring, and to really kind of shift their focus to EVs. And again, we've talked about this a few different times about how the rumblings I've been hearing seem to be even accelerating faster. That Ford put out the Mustang Mach-E and thought, yeah, maybe people will buy it, we'll see. And then they bought it fast, and people love it. And then they announced the F-150 Lightning, and people are crazy about it, want to get it as soon as possible. And it seemed like with each of those successes, the top brass at Ford kind of went, holy crap, these things actually sell. And I think I saw somewhere today that we talk about Tesla's got a couple days of inventory on their vehicles between when they're produced and when they're sold. And apparently I think the Mach-E is at 14 days, which is pretty unheard of for Ford as far as I understand. So that's really great. And if they're kind of getting this message, and they have to be noticing that GM is stalling out too, for decent reasons. They had the Bolt, fire recall and everything, and getting that taken care of should be their priority. But again, it's just one of those things of the door is open for whoever wants to step into it. If that's Hyundai, if that's Ford, whoever. So I think we're going to start seeing some big moves on Ford's part pretty fast. And there was also apparently some internal discussion about whether they should spin off a Ford EV startup kind of thing, because those are getting such good valuations in the market. I don't know, stock market stuff isn't my thing, but to me that seems a little it seems a little one-trick pony, I guess. I think Ford executing under Ford will make more of an impact on their overall stock than an extra, several million they could make maybe quick. But then they've still got, I think all the goodwill that Ford has, and their stock apparently has been going up, would it automatically leave Ford and go into that new startup. And so it would hurt the overall Ford brand to do that, in my opinion. But again, there are smarter people than me who do these kinds of things. That's just the way I would see it. Grand Marais has a couple of plugs at $2 an hour. Those are the. I've been meaning to get up there and check those out. They are. I am blanking on the name of Zeph Energy. Is that what that is? Yeah, a couple level 2 chargers. I think up by the harbor. So that's cool. And you can always use the campground when you're up there too, but that can fill up. They do have a spot that's like dedicated EV charging, but did I hear Biden had a get-together at the White House with the big three and no Tesla? Yes, I did. Ford. What are Ford started launching the F-150 Lightning out now? Or why are Ford starting launching the F-150 out now? There's no chargers up north. Yeah, I think I see what you're saying there. The charge port on the F-150, I think it's on the back corner. Yeah, I'm pretty sure it's on the back corner. Yeah, I mean that's the big problem with CCS is that they've got in places like Minnesota, we were talking about the Supercharger network isn't as built out here as we'd all like it. But for CCS people, you're going up north, you're hauling wood, you're taking a boat, you're hauling a pontoon. You're going to need CCS charging in northern Minnesota. And they've just got to make an effort to do that. And, really push Electrify America or whoever to do that. It's going to be very important. Really everywhere. I mean, you talk about the Dakotas. Those are long stretches up there. Even in a Tesla, it's tough. We almost ran out. If you want these to be work trucks where real people can use them, there's got to be. There's got to be a network that can support these. Even if people have them in their shops or, in different locations, you got to have a public network. Roland says he likes Elon's tweet about this starts with a T, ends with an A, and a S-L in the middle. Yeah. That whole controversy has really blown up. And I kind of got sucked into it. Obviously not at the Elon level. But I did want to talk about that a little bit. So the administration has not officially said, I think maybe today some lower level person said the word Tesla in a response that was kind of milquetoast. But officially, or like, the president hasn't acknowledged Tesla. And it's frustrating. I get that. It is obviously disingenuous, like calling GM the leader, talking about Ford's leadership role and, all that kind of stuff. I had a tweet that I'll show just a little bit of, because it opened up a rat's nest over the weekend. And so I just said, unpopular take, I don't really care if Biden acknowledges Tesla, that we knew how he was with unions before we elected him. By we, I mean the populace. Is it childish and annoying? Yes. Does it have any impact on Tesla's leadership position on their EVs or their demand? Does it have any impact on Tesla's leadership position on EVs or their demand? No. So anyway, then we had a lot of really I stayed up till like 3 a.m, like conversing back and forth with who had, some varying degrees of agreement or disagreement. But what was really cool, and this is the second tweet here that I added to the thread of, I appreciate the mostly very civil discussion on this tonight. Thanks a lot for good and thoughtful points. And it's insightful to hear other people's views, but it's very late here and I've got to stop responding and get to bed. And obviously it's tough to have a conversation like that on Twitter because, the character limit and, in the written word, it's really easy to assume someone's being a jerk. And so it was a night of difficult responses and good conversation. So I really appreciate it. Like a lot of people were saying, well, from the perspective of the administration, it makes them look out of touch, foolish, disingenuous, lying. Everybody had varying degrees of, corruption, beholden to the unions, all that kind of stuff. And there's definitely part of that. I think that's kind of without question, but that's kind of what I was saying is like, who didn't know that would be the case? Like, we knew that was going to be the case on this. But there's also something, I think, a small part of it is like that generation does not think of Tesla as a car company. The car companies are GM, Ford, and Chrysler. And if you're not them, it's cute what you're doing, but I don't care. And so I think there's a portion of it that's just that. That's like, they're a startup. We'll see if they last the decade. Now, when you look at that, it's the most American-made car, and the amount of people they're employing, U.S. people that they're employing, and should the administration know that and be celebrating that? Yes. But the point I was kind of making, and feel free to disagree with me here, just please be relatively polite. But the point I was making is this was like a couple days after the earnings call where Elon basically got on there and said, look, we've got so much demand, there's no way we can even match Model 3 and Model Y demand. So we're putting off the Cybertruck. We're putting off, the $25,000 car, because putting those out now with the resource restrictions we have will just slow the progress we have. Right now, if we put everything into 3 and Y, and obviously they're making a couple semis on the side, but not really volume production. He was basically saying, we got to focus on this. This is what will get more cars out the door. And then when the constraints loosen up next year, then we can start cranking out Cybertrucks. Then we can start worrying about other projects and things like that. So basically he has this call where he says all this, that like pretty much they've got so much, none of the macro stuff really matters. We don't have to worry about new vehicles right now. We just have to produce, get these new factories online, get them cranking out Model Ys, and that's where we need to be. And they had great financials, they had great numbers. Last week there was an article in Bloomberg about how Fremont produced the most of any car factory last year in the U.S., and that's a great achievement. But there are a lot of great companies that don't get called out by governors or presidents. Usually mayors, depending on the size of the town, have a good idea of who's in their town. There might be some recognition, but like I've worked for some good companies. I've worked for companies that worked really hard, good, hardworking Americans doing good, hardworking American things, and the president didn't call our name or pat us on the head, and we did just fine. So I guess that's kind of where I come at it, is like that stuff is just noise, and anybody who knows anything about EVs knows that GM is not the leader. And it would be great if everyone really was jockeying for that leadership position. But anybody who takes a couple minutes to look into it can look at the numbers and see what's up. So does it really matter from a Tesla standpoint? Absolutely not. And a couple people had pointed out that, well, if the Build Back Better bill goes into effect, if they break parts of it out, there's this union provision saying that union shops would get an extra $4,000, maybe. Union shop built EVs, the purchaser would get that money. And so there were a handful of people saying, well, yeah, but if this passes with this union bill, then, or with this union language, that it's going to hurt Tesla. And I kind of had to point out that, like, well, Tesla's getting no incentive now. And so that would bring, even if it's only a partial incentive, an incentive back to Tesla. And if Tesla's got so much demand that they can't keep up with it, well, other companies like Ford do have the incentive, and the Hyundais, the Kias, those guys still get the incentive. And Tesla is still selling every car they can make for the foreseeable future. It's, again, not really going to have a big impact. And Tesla's margins are good enough that if it does start having an impact, they could lower prices, which I think would be great, get more people into the cars. But as long as they're supply constrained, I think they're just kind of on autopilot. So, yeah, that's kind of my thoughts on it. I know there was a billboard in Times Square, I think, and about that today, and a few people have suggested of like a big, million Tesla rally, drive to Washington, which would be really cool. And if I had the time, I'd love to do that, as long as everybody was like cool and in the spirit of like, hey, we're all here for EVs, not, let's burn this place to the ground. That's not my vibe. But if it was just a huge show of support and everybody's just there to say, hey, look at all this American-made stuff, isn't this great? Then I'm totally on board with that. So it would be cool to participate in something like that if it happened. Yeah, Relativity Boy has a point there. The Chargers would be, people would have to stagger going in and out. Blue Dog 99 says dealerships are one of the legacy auto's biggest hurdles to transitioning to EVs quickly. Who in their right mind likes the dealership experience? I don't know. I will get back to that, because I do want to comment further on that in a minute. Tony is saying Biden's pro-union, but isn't he also pro-clean energy too? Seems to me he could just say the damn word. Yeah, I agree. I think that's where the real issue is that it makes him look dumb, and it makes it's just not a good look. It's kind of like, Bernie constantly going after Elon Musk because he has a lot of money, and it's like, but you want clean energy, you want EVs, you want to try to stop climate change, or curtail the effects we're feeling. No one's doing more of that than his company. So, you gotta pick your poison there, I guess. Yeah, I guess they just need an expert. Exactly. Um, that's a pretty good one. Yeah, it's super frustrating. I don't think it matters a bit to what Tesla does. Um, Now, if Elon keeps being openly hostile, I can see it causing problems where people start, there's already criticism of Autopilot and FSD beta testing. I could see that being ramped up, or more scrutiny being put on that, as kind of a tit for tat kind of thing. Not necessarily even coming from the president, but from just someone annoyed in the administration. Um, but yeah, um, it's more embarrassing for the administration. I think Tesla should just basically ignore it and do what they do. And looking back 5 years, everybody's going to say, "Wow, that was pretty obvious. What a weird thing to have done." Um, but I will get to the dealership thing in a second. But speaking of clean energy, one good thing was, I can't remember how much. Like I said, my day was just all over the place today. So um, yesterday, I think it was announced that at least $1 billion, but maybe more, was being put through the. I think it was part of the bipartisan infrastructure deal that they put like $1 billion to work closing orphaned oil wells, and that's fantastic. If you've seen the Well Done Foundation videos I've done, that's what they're doing. Orphaned oil wells that aren't being used anymore are just venting methane and hydrogen sulfide into the air 24 hours a day. And there's 3.5 million of them in the U.S. I think that's correct. And so they just kind of started doing this, and have been trying to bring more attention to it. Started up in Shelby, Montana. That's where I was driving up there to check that out. Now they're closing wells in Pennsylvania and Louisiana, and I think more states are going to start opening up this year. And the money set aside from the government to do that is just going to help do that faster. But money from the government takes time, takes red tape before things actually get done. So the Well Done Foundation had a post. I'll actually see if I can bring that up too. Oh, the things you can do when you're standing in front of your computer. Come Sorry, this is taking a... let's see if I can... It's the good and bad of me being at my computer is that I can type, but the bad is you have to watch me think into the camera. Let's see if I can zoom in on this. Maybe? No. Where did I go here? I'm really good at things. I'm glad you're all here to witness this. They had this post yesterday. From California to New York, at least half the states in America have clusters of abandoned wells. And then at the end, they're saying that they're excited that this issue is getting the recognition, funding it deserves. The more people who are aware and involved, the faster we can address the problem together. So this is all good news. And so, yeah, that's just other stuff they're doing. So it's cool they're continuing to just crank away. And then, I don't think the funding is necessarily going to go to them. They are a nonprofit, but they, I think the more organizations and entities working on that, the better. So that's exciting on the climate change front. And that's, obviously it's something this administration did, but the problem and the solution is very bipartisan in that these wells aren't being used anymore. And so there's no point in, it doesn't do anyone any good to leave them open. There might be a handful, one person, while I was up in Montana, made the comment of we might need to open these back up again. It's you wouldn't need to open necessarily this one when there's one, 10 feet away. There's definitely going to be, some people who don't like it, but in general, this is a very positive thing that both sides can be very happy is getting done because it's not making anybody any money. It's just spilling chemicals out into the world. Roland is asking about what is that wheel on the Model 3 unveiling on the car on the left? I'm not sure about that. I'm going to go back quick to the dealership question because I don't want to forget about this one. So Blue Dog 99 had said dealerships are one of the legacy auto's biggest hurdles to transitioning to EVs quickly. Who in their right mind likes the dealership's experience? And then Tony later says, I've used dealerships for service in the past and they could keep a few. I assume you mean that they're good for service. That is, one upside to them. But buying is generally a pretty terrible experience, almost universally, unless you know someone personally there, or you've always bought from the same place, and you feel like you can get a good deal, and you have a good relationship, but. I don't know. Not that all dealers are bad. It's just, as a consumer, you almost never know, what you're walking into. When I was talking earlier about when we bought the Sonata, My brother-in-law is an auto broker, and so he can find vehicles on auctions or through multiple dealers. Just, hey, who's got something like this? Oh, this dealership has it, and they want to move a unit, and with no hassle, and so he can get that, and he gets a little cut, the dealer gets a little cut, you get a better deal than you would otherwise, going straight through the dealer to dealer to consumer, and a lot of the hassle is taken out of it. But I'd never driven a Sonata before, and so he's like, well, go to a dealership and just ask to test drive a Sonata. And it took me like 20 minutes of being in there, and they had to, I wasn't that young at the time. I was probably I was well into my 30s. And it was such a pain in the butt. And then like the hard sell of like, look, man, I literally just came to see if I'd like this car. Like, I'm not buying it from you. And which you could say is kind of a jerk move on my part. But, people have to be able to go and test drive cars without constantly getting, pressured. So I don't know, that model, it's going to be tough because like I know Ford sent something to their dealers about not marking up the Lightning, but they don't really have any authority. Like, the system in place pretty much guarantees that Ford has no authority to make them, other than they can withhold vehicles. But I don't even know legally how long they can do that or what their powers would be in that frame. So it's going to be tough when those things start rolling off. And then they also are saying consumers can't sell them for a year to try to cut down on price gouging, which I guess it's good you're trying to cut down on price gouging, but can you really tell a consumer they can't sell the thing they just bought? That's weird too. So they're going to have to find out, the dealerships are going to have to figure out some way of still making money. Obviously there will still be some service, upgrades or like aftermarket things. Maybe, maybe you buy, like I'm trying to, like the topper, the back of the truck, topper, the lockable thing. Maybe you would buy that through the dealer. So maybe they'd be able to find some profit centers there, but the model definitely needs to evolve, because people just want to buy stuff online and not deal with that kind of hassle and feeling like an idiot, and just it's not worth it. So I guess from the small business and people being employed standpoint, I should say I do hope they find a way to survive, but I hope they find a way to survive that isn't exclusive to them being a monopoly and being the only ones that have cars, so you have to go to them, and using that to kind of hold customers hostage. So I hope the business model can evolve. But I also hope companies like Rivian and some of the other, the Lucids, can sell direct, like Tesla has managed. But since Tesla got in some places, loopholes have been closed, so the Rivians and Lucids might not be able to. So I'm hoping there can be kind of an overhaul. Well, even in Texas, Tesla can't sell their vehicles. So they're going to have, if a Texan wants to buy a Tesla, they have to have it shipped out of state and then brought back. That's the way the law is there now, which is going to be preposterous in about 2 months. Apparently deliveries are going to start in the next, or within this quarter. So the easiest thing for Tesla as far as getting their delivery numbers up would be just park a bunch in the factory and deliver them all right there. But they can't do that. And so they're going to have to be shipped out. And it's just going to be a logistics nightmare for no good reason. Absolutely no good reason. Blue Dog 99 says, I remember paying at least $1,000 more than MSRP for the new Honda Accord in the late 70s because they were so popular and low in supply. That is happening with the, I think Kyle in the out of spec Hyundai Ioniq 5 comparison with the ID4, he was saying that the person who owns the car bought it for $4,000 or $5,000 more than MSRP, and still felt like they got a decent deal out of it because at least they got the car. So, yeah, they're going to do that, and until there's a lot more supply, I don't know how much can be done. Unfortunately, that happened when we bought. Our Prius too. We got it used, but I was just dead set on like, man, I really want this car. And we paid, I can't remember how much, but it was a stupid amount to pay for a Prius, but you just couldn't get them anywhere. And we were like, no, this, I'd wanted one for a long time, wanted to be moving technology forward into more fuel efficient things. And it was like, well, we're just going to bite the bullet and do it. So it sucks. I definitely wouldn't suggest going to dealers if you can help it at all. How about the Texas Indian reservation loophole? Yeah, that's I imagine there are reservations in Texas. I'm not sure, but I would guess there are. I think what Roland's referring to is, I think it was New Mexico, it may have been Arizona, but I think it was New Mexico, that the state doesn't allow Tesla to sell. So they built a service center, delivery center on the Indian tribal land. Had been welcomed there by them. It's their land. They can do whatever they want there, and got around that loophole. And I would guess they could do that in Texas. I don't know if it would be a smart political move when there's going to be so much push from all those employees to get that law changed. I could see them doing that as a last resort, or maybe starting some of those talks, but I would think they would be hesitant to go that route when so much of their future plans and everything rely on having a good working relationship with the state and local governments, as far as new permits for additional construction there. Any improvements or anything like that, roads and all that kind of stuff. I can see there's just something about Texas that tells me that maybe if you try to do something like that, they would find a lot of petty ways to make life really difficult, which they might be doing by not having changed this law in advance already. That could be the oil money talking of we're going to hold this thing up as long as we can, just kind of like what's happening in Germany with, review after review after review of, complaints from every corner, where they've been ready to go and they can't go yet. And, that is definitely more of the assumption is there, it's more of other auto companies might be working behind the scenes to slow that process down. But Texas likes oil. Newsflash. And I can see people trying to slow things down. All right, Roland, I might need you to explain a little more what you were talking about here. Asking an expert where. What is that wheel on the Model 3 unveiling on the car on the left? So let me see if I can find what you're talking about. I think, there were different wheels. Are you talking steering wheels or different, like, rolling wheels? There was something different. Like, one of the Model 3s had Model S door handles, I think, too. And I don't know if it was just, like, such an early prototype that Tony's got a good suggestion. Build a boring tunnel from the factory to the reservation. More efficient. Yeah, but they'd probably hit oil on the way, and then you'd have a whole bunch of other problems. Tesla Model 3 Unveil. Okay, I'm going to bring this up here. And I'm going to pause it so I don't get a copyright strike on it. Nope, wrong button there. The wheels with the look at the hubcap. Okay, so let's see when they bring it out here. Is there a shot where we see all four of them? Okay, the wheels with the look like a hubcap. So that looks like the aero caps, kind of. I don't know if that's the one you're thinking of. That looks like, isn't that kind of, is that the Uber turbines? I'm not real those look like the ones that are like on the Performance Ys now. The silver ones seem to have like Model S style. I'm guessing. Yeah, does look like an aero cap. But yeah, it could be a bigger tire. Yeah, I'm not sure. I wonder if that was a cap design they were experimenting with and then decided that they would. Maybe the one they went with was more efficient. I'm not sure. But yeah, it looks pretty sharp as I've taken it off the screen for you. Boy, that thing I'm looking at looks really good. Um, yeah, so I was really surprised, speaking of aero caps, with the um, aero cap difference on my recent video test of basically I lost about 4% extra an hour, um, which if you think about like your overall range, that could add up to between 10 and 15% depending on conditions of a difference it could make. So I was surprised. I'd always kind of heard that it doesn't really make that big of a difference at all, or like 4% out of the total battery. But if I lost 4% an hour, on a 3-hour trip, that's going to eat up a lot. Yeah, it did look like the bigger wheels on that Model 3. That is the one. I'll bring that back up again because yeah. So that is the one that had like the Model S door handles. So I don't know if that was like a complete hodgepodge of hey, let's get a third one up here. What can we build it with? Or what the deal was. I don't remember if that at that reveal. I should go back and watch that because I don't know that I've ever actually seen it. I've seen tons of clips from it. But that was from a time that I wasn't following Tesla other than that Rocket guy is making electric cars and they're super expensive and they're super fast. And I'll never be able to afford one. And that's really all I knew about him at the time. And I remember being aware of the Model 3. But I think the deposit, you had to put like 1,000 or 1,500 down. And I remember standing in a coworker's office just being like, I can't, like that's insanity. I can't just hand over that kind of money, like, and not like come away with something. I wasn't at a point in my life where that was a thing I thought I could do. Now, looking back, I probably could have. We had some money in savings and things, but you just, like I said, I had the mindset of drive something until it dies, then just get the next thing. And I'd never really had, other than like loans from family members, I'd never had a loan on any car. It was just, what can I afford? And then, okay, I'll shell that out right now. So, well, I guess we had a loan on the Prius, but we also didn't want to have to do that again. Yeah, so yeah, it was a time I wasn't really following Tesla yet, so I should go back and watch that someday. Well, I'm pausing here. I'll let you know I was going to start the show by doing this. I thought it would be really funny. And then I saw myself do it, practicing it. And I thought it's only funny because it looks so stupid and probably not worth opening. In case anyone's new here, if you're this far into the show, you know I already look stupid. That's just the way things are. So let's see. Autopilot, that's the other thing I wanted to talk about. So Autopilot's kind of stalled out FSD as far as the rollout. We were at 8.1 for a long time, then 10. Scratch that. Start over. We were at 10.8.1 for a while, and then some people started getting 10.9, and then it seemed like it just stopped. And now apparently 10.10 is rolling out, and it seems like the holdup was maybe the National Highway Transportation Safety Board. I should get that on a big plaque and put that in front of me so I can remember how to say it each time. Has asked that they turn off rolling stops, and so they've added that. That's part of the 10.10 release, which should be going out. I think it went out to employees today, either Monday night or Tuesday. It started rolling out to employees, and then there was talk that maybe tonight or tomorrow it might start rolling out to the general public of FSD beta testers. And there's been a lot of talk about the rolling stop issue. And I totally get it, that why did they have it programmed to do something illegal? And on one hand is, it shouldn't do anything illegal. On the other hand is, should it drive with other humans and drive like other humans do? And so that's a debate. This is an easy one for them to just shut off and shouldn't be a problem. But I think I've maybe had it do that once, maybe twice, and I have it set on assertive and all that. In fact, my bigger problem with it is at the end of my road, there's a T without a stop sign, and it'll sit there for 20 seconds if I let it, or 30 seconds. No stop sign, no traffic coming, a little obscured by snow, but not bad. And I have to push the accelerator there almost every day, for usually multiple times a day. I will push the accelerator there. And so it's really interesting, the variety of experiences some people have. When it has rolled through a stop sign, it's been going so slow that it really didn't make any difference. Like if a cop had been sitting there watching, they would have said, hey, you didn't stop, and probably pulled you over. Just because if they were sitting there watching that, then they had the time to pull you over. But I can't see it's caused any problems, but someone complained, it got put in. Why should you have it do something illegal? They're taking it out. Should roll out soon, assuming they haven't found problems with it. So, but it does kind of beg the question of what does it do that is illegal that people do that is okay? And what's the line for allowing that? Because technically you're not supposed to go into an oncoming traffic lane. But if a garbage truck is parked in front of you and stopped, and you need to go around them as a human being, you go, yeah, no one's coming. This guy's not moving. I'm around here. And beta will do that. And there are other little things like that of like you can set it to speed. You can set cruise control to speed too, and that's a whole different thing. But there are some acceptable, technically illegal things. Should never cross the yellow line. Well, there's enough parked cars and only one little lane to get through. You should get through safely is more important than does your tire creep over the yellow line at some point. People drive over the speed limit every day. They make inappropriate turns. Turn when it says no turn. All sorts of things like that. So technically it should do everything legally, but there are unwritten rules of the road that also need to be taken into consideration. And I hope we don't go so far down the road of making sure it follows every little rule that it completely clogs up the roadways. And at that point, what's the point of having it? Because it's not driving like people. And as long as we have people and automated systems driving, they need to live in the same universe of driving capabilities or driving habits, I guess. So it's tough. It's, I am excited to see, because it has been, I feel like, over a month. I'm trying to remember when 10.8.1 came out. Was that the holiday update? Right before Christmas? It could have been. But I'm interested to see what's been worked on and what, if anything, works better in 10.10. Because I'm feeling like I'm disengaging quite a bit. Some of that's out of courtesy. We've talked before about the fact that it doesn't again, being able to act around other drivers, it doesn't consider what a human would do in some situations, or it might do the correct thing, but someone's tailgating you, and you wouldn't do that way when someone's tailgating you, or cutting someone off in one lane, then they move to the other lane to get around you, and the car goes into that lane because that's the best path it wants to take. And there needs to be an anti-jerk function in the car. And so I think there's just, that's where most of my disengagements are coming from, are not safety disengagements, it's unwritten rules of the road disengagements or courtesy disengagements. There's one point where it struggles, and every time I've tested it, it's really been bad, and that is with U-turns. And to me, it should also almost just decide never to do U-turns. At least that's the way it's behaving for me. I know one or two videos I've seen people have gotten to do it, have gotten the car to do a U-turn. Every time I've tried it, it's gotten to the left turn lane. Even tonight, coming home from the Tesla event, got in the left turn lane, and then actually put the blinker on to the right because it needed more space to go, to make a loop. And if it starts creeping out there and you've got traffic still coming because the turn signal might be red, but the straight lines might be green, you get people coming very close to you, and I've, disengaged in every instance. There was one time I let it start doing the curve, but then it couldn't make it tight enough. But that was on one of my first versions of FSD, and it hasn't even been that good at U-turn since then. So I hope that either change the mapping, that if it detects a U-turn, do 2 right or do 3 rights, or something instead, because that wouldn't bother me. I'd rather a safe, easier maneuver than an unsafe human maneuver. So we'll see. That's kind of the big one that I'm wondering when they are going to solve. But Chris from Dirty Tesla did a video today, or released a video today, about kind of mapping out his disengagements and things like that, his interventions and disengagements. And early last year, he was doing that with every drive. He would give the stats at the end. And then he kind of stopped doing that because it was a pain, and it was kind of always the same. And but people have been asking for it, and Elon said on the call that, if a person were to be charting this, they should be seeing this decline in disengagements. And I think he kind of had mixed results. It's worth checking out that video to seeing how things were. But it seemed like a lot of his disengagements were also like courtesy things, or at least a handful of them were, where it's like, yeah, it might be doing something, right, but it's doing it too slow, or there's people around, I don't want to mess with this or that, or so we'll see. We're into the second month of the year, so hopefully we can get some progress cooking on that. And there might be tons behind the scenes, and they're just holding it to get this 10-10 out. They were maybe holding that to get that a rolling stop thing taken care of, which, again, I know it's technically illegal, and there's a good argument to be made of that it never should have had that feature, but in practice it almost never like I said, I can't get it to roll through a stop that isn't even a stop. So I never had a problem or felt unsafe because it was rolling through a stop. But everybody's experience is different, and that's why I think it's really hard for us as individual users to gauge how or if it's getting better. I do try to watch a lot of other people's videos in different parts of the country to see how is it responding here, how is it responding there. Just because we've got weird weather with the snow and the snow-covered streets and everything. Those are mostly cleared off, but still the banks and sides are still snowy. But different people live in different cities or older cities, and it's always good to just kind of get a ballpark view of how people are doing with it. FSD cannot back out of the garage. No. Smart summon with HomeLink can, where HomeLink will open your garage door and you can smart summon the car out backwards. I think. I know you can regular summon the car out. Can smart summon do reverse? I thought they were holding on reverse functions until beta, FSD beta 11, because that kind of opens up a new can of worms. And so right now beta doesn't work in reverse. But the hope and kind of I'm using this word lightly, but the promise of version 11 is that it should be able to, as the whole stack is combined into one feature, should be actually able to get into a parking lot and park the car all from your route. And that would be highway driving, city driving, everything. But it's not in the versions yet. I think... I don't know about that. Well, Todd and I are we're gonna go out in April and test wherever Smart Summon is at that point. We did that last year just to get a ballpark I'd just gotten my Model Y. And I was like, hey, this has, all the Smart Summon features. We're going to test this thing out. It's going to be fantastic. And it was pretty dicey, really. Did it work? It worked about 50% of the time. And I don't know if I'd do it around people unless I absolutely had to. Or had a spotter, like when Todd and I were doing that together. That was a little easier. Hopefully it's much better. It seems like the vision system is working a lot better this year. I'm trying to think, that did back out of parking spots in Smart Summon. It backed out, went down a lane of cars, took a right, and picked me up. So, yeah, I guess it could do the driveway thing, but I always back all the way out of my driveway, and start going down my road before I engage it. Yeah, you're right, Todd. It did back out. So it's hard to remember sometimes. Trying to think of what. The video didn't freeze. My brain did. Yeah, it'll be really interesting to see what comes out in 10.10 and then what comes out in 11. And we might be a ways away from 11 because they want to combine that all in where FSD or the FSD system is handling navigate on autopilot, all the interstate stuff, the exchanges on and off the highway, and then in-town stuff, presumably in parking lot stuff. I can see why they might be pushing that back until they're dead sure this is going to be able to handle those things. Today I had a weird situation getting on the highway, kind of where that handoff point would be between autopilot and navigate on or FSD and navigate on autopilot, and just the way the lanes merged as I was entering, it did not like that transition, and I had to take over. It may have figured it out, but in rush hour traffic, I wasn't gonna, this kind of goes back to the presumed danger of having a system like this out there. The car didn't behave how I wanted it to, but I'm also not going to risk my life to just see what happens. Most people with their own car that they paid for are not just going to spin the wheel and whatever happens, happens. Some idiots will do that. But if you're following the directions, the hands on the wheel, all that kind of stuff, and are being aware, as you would if you were driving, you're going to take over in those situations. Because, I had my daughter in the car too. I'm not going to, anyone could get into an accident at any time. I'm not going to be like, yeah, let's see if it happens. That's just, that's the upside of having real people test your software in the real world, is that an employee might go, we're supposed to let it do what it does. If it causes a wreck, it's not on me. Hopefully they wouldn't be like that, but real people are going to take over and not allow fender benders or, that kind of stuff. If they can prevent it, sometimes you just can't. 47 Solar asks if we've signed the petition that asked Biden to acknowledge Tesla. Yes, I did. And yeah, Todd did too. I think it's worth doing it. In my earlier comments, I didn't maybe make myself clear that I would love for the president to acknowledge Tesla and SpaceX. Actually, more importantly, I think SpaceX, because of the there's a lot of great things Tesla is doing for the world, for energy, for transitioning everything to EVs, and really jump-starting that push. But there's something on a national level to me that's higher in the space world of acknowledging like the Inspiration 4 crew, or even the regular astronaut crews that have gone to the International Space Station, saving millions and millions of dollars by using SpaceX, of taxpayer dollars. That's our money we're saving every time a SpaceX land rocket re-lands. Just today there was a launch, and it was a government agency that didn't want anyone to know anything about what went on with the second stage. Who knows? But they reused the booster. That booster is going to fly their next satellite up. And that's taxpayer money every time that we're saving by reusing those boosters, by having a cheaper flight vehicle, by reusing fairings, all that kind of stuff. So there's the human exploration part of it that I wish would be recognized. And then there's obviously the tremendous amount of savings that we're getting by not sending astronauts up on Soyuz, or I don't think we have since SpaceX has started flying. I don't think we've sent Americans up on Soyuz. Maybe somebody came back on one because they had gone up on one. I can't quite remember. I'm going to ban this comment because that looks like a link to a porn site, and that's not our jam here. Anyway, to me, that's the bigger slight, because so much of American, I don't know how to say that. I don't want to say, I guess, national identity to some degree. I don't want to sound nationalist, if you know what I mean. But, the American story of the 20th century was a big part of that was the space race, going to the moon, the Apollo missions. And we're in such a new renaissance of that. And SpaceX is, just crushing it. That I feel like that's almost a more important acknowledgement that should be made. Again, both of them should be bipartisan, support of American ingenuity and exceptional engineering skill that has gone into this. And I get it. Like, some people don't like Elon, and sometimes Elon is very frustrating. But he's a human being too. I would say I was not crazy about half of his tweets this week. But you also have to accept that not everyone's going to agree with you on everything. And, just take people as human beings and assume we're all trying to do our best. And sometimes we define best in different ways. Yeah, the lying about GM leading it's frustrating, but it's almost comical. Just the preposterousness of it. And like I said earlier, 47 Solar, I don't know if you were on here earlier. We talked about this a little bit, but the negative impact is far more on the administration looking stupid than it is on anything Tesla's got planned, and how it could affect them. So I'm annoyed by it, but I also think, like, Tesla doesn't need any president to pat them on the head to execute. And so I just think, they just need to keep doing what they're doing. Obviously, continue to improve would be good too, because there are places, as much as I love them, there are places they could improve and do things better. But I think it's far more of a detriment to the administration than it is to anything, Tesla related. And I've already talked a lot about that, so you guys know how I feel about that. Does anybody have anything else they want to cover? I think I will just double check my notes here. I do want to thank anybody who was on that Twitter thread the other night. I can't remember if those must have been Friday night. But it was really good, good conversation. It's kind of funny, the Twitter timeline. I'm not going to dwell on this, but like, they're really good for the most part. I would say 99% of comments responding to my post about this were really thoughtful and good arguments and good perspectives. And then I went to bed. I ended up staying up till like 3 a.m. responding to people, because it was just a good, like, healthy, yeah, what about this? Yeah, what about this? But doesn't this matter? Doesn't that matter? And so we kind of went through the whole we went through the whole grind, and it was great. And even like people who were dead disagreeing with me, there were good conversations. And it was just cool. And then I kind of signed off for the night. And then, Roland, have a good night. Thanks for stopping by. Have a good day, or a good night. And get your stretches in before work tomorrow. But then the next day, the comment thread had kind of degraded, where there were more like personal attacks and things in there. You must be a this, you must be a that. And then people started infighting between each other in the comments. And I was like, well, for the most part, I'm just going to stay out of this. And by between day 2 and day 3, it just became like the people who were still commenting were just shouting, just like either really rude stuff or like ridiculous political stuff. And it's like, that's not, I got to a point where it's like, I'm not responding to anything in this thread anymore, because it's now gotten past the point of real people who really want to have a conversation. Yeah, 47 Solar, you're right. Tesla did update the Supercharger map. It shows a lot of new chargers. Yeah, not many in our area in the Midwest. I was a little, at least none that we didn't know about already. There were some that seemed more confident, but in places we expected them. And then it looked like the East Coast. Let me see if I can bring that map back up. If I can find it. If I can turn back time. That's not the right place. Yeah, I'm still as skilled as ever at... I don't know if the stream is better or worse when I'm looking at my second screen here. But at least I can bring other things up on the screen. So here we have, new Superchargers. We're going to take off service here. Were put out, like I said, not a lot new in Minnesota. The Dakotas are still pretty barren. I'm surprised to see new ones coming in Nebraska. That is a path I thought was... I think when we did that route, we skipped every other one. But maybe it's just such a popular route that to handle the traffic, it just makes more sense to have some there. But then you'd think they'd add a couple in Kansas or something too, which might be on the map. Definitely Texas is getting bombarded with Superchargers. Where is... Can we even see it? Austin is buried in Superchargers. But that's good. There weren't enough there last time we were there 2 years ago. Now there are plenty. So I'm not sure where Giga Texas is, Giga Austin. But yeah, there's going to be a lot more there. And hopefully that does, just kind of start filling in some of these gaps. Florida is lousy with Superchargers, and they're getting even more. We are going, at the end of the month, we're going to be down at Cocoa Beach, right here. Hopefully there will be a Starlink launch or something we'll get to see. And that'll be an epic road trip with lots of videos and hopefully adventures that don't involve me changing tires. But definitely this section of the country and up into Canada is getting a big push through a lot of these spaces. So that's good to see. Even Wisconsin's getting a few extra ones. So just kind of need to fill in this space. Needs more. Especially, where there's so much beautiful scenery up here. I'd love to see more Superchargers up here. So it's great. Yeah, more gaps are getting filled, so that's pretty cool. It's always fun to check in on that. Even I'll just do it randomly, but I did see on Twitter that somebody had posted that there were a bunch more. So I did also get unofficial confirmation that in Minnesota, the Bloomington Service Center and Supercharger that's going in will not replace Eden Prairie, which is good because they need every service station they can get. But the Eden Prairie one is old and small, and apparently this one's going to be big and very new. So it should be geared for lots of throughput for service. So looking forward to that. Yeah, thanks, Tony. It's gonna be pretty cool. It's gonna be like the Frunkful of Diapers series. If you haven't seen that, I can bring up, just show the I can bring that up here. Right here is the Frunkful of Diapers series, and we don't need to play them. But it's basically a 6-part series of road trip from Minnesota down to Austin for Fully Charged Live. And we checked out new EVs there. The Taycan was brand new. The e-tron was brand new. Checked out all that kind of stuff. Rivian was there. It was very cool to see those. No one had really, at that point, like they had their Unveil event, but they were really rare to see anywhere. And then, we just had a couple episodes about Fully Charged Live, then road tripped over to Disney World in Florida, and then road trip home to beat a snowstorm that was coming in. So that was a epic road trip. I was so exhausted, and you can see in those later episodes as we're driving home, I was physically sick and also just exhausted from driving, being the solo driver. So we're going to take it a little easier this time. I got to come up with a catchy phrase or a catchy name for the series. I'm not sure what it's going to be yet. Maybe we go Coco for coconuts. That's terrible. I should not say this stuff out loud on the fly. But anyway, we're going to do some kind of fun adventure, and it'll be my daughter and I driving down. Hopefully we're going to see Jim the Iowa Tesla guy in Iowa. Might meet up with EV Dave if we can work our schedules out, and might work out with might be able to meet up with Brennan and Kaylee, the EV Nomads in Charlotte, and then continue down to Cocoa Beach. So we'll see. We're going to take it a little easier so I don't get so exhausted or sick, and hopefully just have a really cool trip. There's way more Superchargers now, way more hotels with charging. So it's going to be a lot of, should be, hopefully it's more scenery and less, I know people want stats and everything, and I will share those, but hopefully it's more about the cool stuff you can see along the way of an EV road trip, rather than just, we made it. I can't believe we made it. Which that trip wasn't really like that either, but we did have a couple long stretches, and like I said, we slept in the car a couple times, and we just pushed it a little harder than we were going to this trip. So, yeah, that's that. But I think I am out of topics. I did have a question, if people want to throw that in the chat or comment down below afterward. If there is a favorite app you use Obviously, everybody uses their vehicle app. I did put a. Let's check in on that since we're here. I did put a poll on the community tab on YouTube of what types of apps do you use with your EV. Let me know how many you actually use, or if you have a favorite below in the comments. And there's only 12 votes, so if you want to go in there and vote, let me know, and either here or there, let me know what your favorite apps might be. I want to do kind of an overview of a cool update that's happened with the Tesla app, in that now it can show you your charging cost, which is something that people always ask when you meet non-EV owners. I'm going to bring mine up when I'm not showing charge stats. So obviously I'll do a whole video on this, but there's now this, trying to cut down on glare here, but I'm making it worse. Yeah, there's this whole new page showing how much your gas savings are, your average charge cost, and all of that. So really cool new feature, and you can set it up. I went through and set it up according to my time of use plan from my utility, and so you can kind of do some cool customization things. So I watched I'll do basically a little snippet on that and like the car app, but then I want to also talk about some of the other cool apps that people use. A Better Route Planner is a great tool. Apple Music streaming, yeah. I wasn't even thinking, I was thinking like EV specific, but that is, I actually use that all the time. I stream from my phone quite a bit because it's got, it's obviously loaded up with songs that I chose to have there. So yeah, that's kind of a cool way to think of it. I hadn't kind of put that in a category. Maybe I'm thinking of kind of bucketing these out of like, you've got your car app, whatever EV you drive. And then there's some like Tesla specific apps. Then there's things like A Better Route Planner, PlugShare, ChargeWay that can do like the route planning piece of it. And then there's other things like Stats app, Teslafy. I'm trying to think. There might be a couple others that just kind of monitor things and tell you things about your battery temperature, battery health, or how long you drove. TeslaLab is one I used to use a lot. Audible is another one. Yeah, that's a good ones to mention. So yeah, add those either on the poll, or if you want to vote on the poll in the community tab, that's cool. Or put them here in the comments or chat if we're still live. Yeah, Tony, the Frunk Full of Diapers series is very like I actually, obviously I'm partial because it's like a fun time I had with my daughter, but I think it is kind of cool from a perspective of an EV without a ton of range doing a big trip like that. The charging times, a big route like that, and then stopping at these different things. So I think it's a pretty cool pretty cool road trip to watch through. Obviously, there's a lot of parts of it, but hopefully it's entertaining. I think it still holds up relatively well. Um, Another one that's just one episode was the Charging into North Dakota road trip from 2019. No, that would have been 2020. Yeah, I think it was summer of 2020. That's just one episode, but I thought it was a pretty good road trip video, and it's got a lot of great scenery of like the North Dakota national parks and things like that. So kind of a cool other one to check out if you're interested in that sort of thing. Any idea when Audible, Apple Music, Amazon Music, etc. will be made available in car? I don't really have a sense. I mean, I know people have been asking for that stuff for a long time. A lot of people want CarPlay in the car too. I don't have a lot of experience with CarPlay. What I've seen of it hasn't really blown me away, but I guess if you're used to it, it's something you want. I never had a car with any sort of screen or anything in it before owning a Tesla, so well, I guess the Prius technically has a screen, but if you've driven a Prius, you know what that screen is like, especially a 2008 Prius. So I could see it happening this year. I wonder. It's really hard to know where their priorities are on the UI and porting different things to the cars. Or if there's, with Audible might be okay. I don't know who owns them, if they're their own entity or not. But like Apple Music or Amazon, there might be so much red tape that the Apple or Amazon puts on it that it's not worth it, or they make it such a hassle. I would think they would see it as a good opportunity, but I don't know. And it's also a question of, are there any bottlenecks there, and then is it something Tesla actually wants to do or sees as a priority, or if they see it as something, we can take care of that in 2024 or something. I would think they would want to keep pushing the boundaries on stuff like that. I know they add games every now and again, but this is kind of the stuff that more adults use generally. And I would think they would want to keep staying ahead of, like the Lucids. I know they've got their own software issues and things. I don't think their cruise control is even out yet, which is not great, but I think everybody knew that. Anybody who bought one obviously knew that at the time. But I think they thought they'd have it by now. Amazon owns Audible. Okay. So yeah, it just might be, it could be intercorporate politics and, brand deals and things like that, or it could just be Tesla doesn't have they definitely have the money to put manpower toward it, but if they don't feel like it's something they need to offer, they might wait and do other things. I know a lot of people want a new user interface after version 11 came out. I'm relatively used to it now, but I can see. Well, I mean, nobody's ever happy on the internet, are they? So I can definitely see that if they fix the user interface, people will be like, yeah, give us all this stuff. If they give us all this stuff, people would say, sure, you can do that, but you can't fix the interface. So yeah, I don't know how much resources they want to put to it. Well, that's a good point. If Tesla is bullish on FSD being complete this year, a larger variety of apps in the car would be useful. Yeah. If there's nothing to do in your car but twiddle your thumbs, you're going to want Audible, you're going to want Apple Music, you're going to want Amazon Music, whatever apps you can, put to it. Yeah, I can see that being I wonder if it's, well, I know they just put the new processor in the I don't even know where it is in line, but the new computers have the new processing chip, and it makes the UI faster, Netflix run faster, all that kind of stuff. Maybe more cars need to have that to start porting things over or have more of an app store. I'm not sure. Because an app store that doesn't work well is just going to make people frustrated and beg for retrofits. If the app store works well, then yeah, put everything on it. But and maybe they can get it working well with the new processors, but it's taking longer with the old ones, and they don't dare roll it out. Well, only a handful of people have the new one. So there might be some internal, questions on some of that stuff. Because I know, like, that was a huge, very first world problem, but, a frustration I had with our 2015 Model S, which we bought in 2018. Was like, for the first 6 months, it was like, holy crap, this car's from the future. It can do everything. It's so amazing. And then Model 3 starts rolling out. 3 starts rolling out wider. And everybody's talking about, this new feature that car can do. And, the new Autopilot can do this and that. And, my car was still very good, but you just feel like you're starting to miss out. People would talk about, the web browser, and my web browser would open up eventually, sometimes. Now they have a retrofit for a car that old, but at the time they didn't. So yeah, that's going to be, active noise reduction would be another good one. That would be cool. There's going to be a lot of stuff. I think they are doing, I don't know if they've rolled it out yet, but I thought the Plaid Model X and S were going to have active noise canceling, which is such a crazy concept to me. Like, I get it, but it's also like, in an open space, how do you make it work for various people, and where do you put speakers or microphones, or like, how do you do all that kind of thing? Like, it's just crazy. So I dig it, though. I think it's cool if they can do it. But it is almost 10 to midnight here, and so I think I am going to call it for the evening. I am out of notes, or yeah, I'm out of notes. You can tell my throat is getting very dry. But I really appreciate everyone coming in and hanging out. I really appreciate that. All these things seem to point to FSD being completed and people not needing to pay attention to drive. So taking advantage of the display audio climate control for a relaxed living room feel, yeah, that would be very cool. I'd love to see some of that stuff. already I know, I'm talking about this big road trip to Florida, but even in, um, I guess it was early 2020 when we did the Frunk Full of Diapers trip, knowing even though I was a solo driver, knowing I had Autopilot's eyes out there helping too made just a huge difference in getting me through those drives. So, um, yeah. All right. Well, everybody have a good night. I really appreciate it. I really appreciate everyone stopping by and watching and participating in the chat. Good comments and questions and everything. And we'll do it again next week and maybe have a little different flair. I'm working on some stuff and we'll see what happens. But thank you again. Have a great night. Everyone stay warm out there and catch you in the next one. Thanks. Bye.